Good afternoon, good evening, good wherever the sun stands for you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 5 of Cruise Into the Void. I'm your host, Fisch. My co-host, Nagy, is with me this week, and we're going to call this episode the interview episode. Nagy and I are just sitting here in the spaceship, and we had a couple questions that we wanted to ask each other that we knew we couldn't answer for each other. And so with that, I think we're going to roll a D20 and see who's going to interview each other first. But you're going to get half this episode is me interviewing Nagy and Nagy interviewing me for the other half. So, Nagy, is there anything you got in for this?
I'm super excited for it because, I've been with Jarrah for over a decade. And the coolest thing is when you find something out, like something new information. And that's with my significant other. How many people can look at their best friend and answer like more intimate kind of questions and things like that? So it's a very cool thing to think about of developing those deeper bonds with even your closest friends that you've known forever, of just being like, what do they actually think about this really kind of small thing that you might like gloss over? That it's like it's not like an intrinsic, but it's sort of there. You're like, I have an idea, but like if you actually ask them a direct question of it, you're like, whoa, that answer really surprised me. And so doing this with you is just like super fun to be like, oh my goodness, I get to find some things out about fish that I never knew because, life was such a whirlwind that you're like, what are some of the different thoughts that aren't just like, yo, deep talks at the bar? It's let's have a little more perspective on something actually more genuine.
All right, so we'll go pick a number. We'll both roll
No,
the D. Hold on,
nice
hold on, hold on.
number.
I got,
Okay, sorry.
I got this. Pick a number. We'll both roll the D20. Closest without going over gets interviewed first.
15. It's my favorite number. I got a
I got
5.
13.
All right. I missed the 1 on that.
So that means you're up for the interview and I'm in the hot seat.
All right, my man, Mr. Fisher, welcome. Pleasure to have you here. Got a series of questions. Just going to try and find more about you. Number 1, sir. What is a profession that you'd rather have done? So back in time, life choice of, hey, I want to do something else.
Carpentry. We had a wood shop when I was younger in my garage. My dad grew up on a farm and worked for his brother who was a master carpenter. So my dad was a very high level carpenter. If we are on the grades of belt ranks, he was probably a brown belt in carpentry. And so my dad taught me a lot of carpentry, and I took a lot of shop classes through high school, and I just loved working with wood. And if I had the opportunity to go back and do it again, that would be one I would do immediately.
Would you want to do like erecting homes and building, cabinetry and things like that? Or would you want to go more like the artistic of like, no, you're doing chairs and special tables, or you're the guy that here's, they cut a tree down and you're like, I'm going to carve this whole tree into a beautiful blank.
It would probably end up being something artsy. I would say probably more dress or like upscale type tables, chairs, probably some abstract stuff as well. But I don't know
Like
if it'd be
functional,
much like
fashionable.
housing. I think everybody kind of goes through a construction housing phase. Like that's just kind
Oh,
of a
yeah.
natural progression from a lot of carpenters, right? Like you're doing cabinets at some point, or you're doing handrails, or you're doing um walls. Like there's a bunch of different ways to break it down, but everybody ends up in houses at some point. But I would probably
Right.
want to end up in more my own standalone art type stuff. Or maybe, you know
Nice.
what, even one of my favorite companies of all time, I've been following them. Shout out to Wormwood. I've been following them for like 5 or 6 years now. They have a show called Worm Life, and they are a bunch of carpenters up in Boston, and they make gaming tables and
Nice.
dice and box trays for all of your minis and different things, and I have their modular gaming table coming next month. So
You got one?
yeah, I got one, dude. I got a
I've
maple
been
one.
tagged in
Shout out.
dozens. Yeah,
Actually,
if you guys
they
sponsor us, go ahead.
here's what I'm gonna do. This is shout out again to Wormwood for being an awesome company. They ran out of maple some way, shape, or form, and they gave us the free option for upgrades to different things. So now it's cherry. It's gonna be a full cherry.
Ooh,
When you come into town, dude, we're gonna film an episode on it, and you're just, it's gonna be
not gonna leave it. We're just gonna spend the whole time there. I love it.
yeah.
Okay, I dig it. What is a noise you love? When you hear it, it either just amps you up, puts you at peace. Like, what is it and why?
The kind of rustle and bustle slash silence of the morning. You know that like six. It's not even a time wise. It's right after the sun's got through that orange phase, and you kind of hear the critters moving around. There's things going out about the day, but there's also a silence and a peace, almost a calm before the storm.
Just the whole world waking up.
I think you know what that actually comes from my triathlon days. I think about it because before we raced, it was kind of right as the sun was coming up, and you walk out into the water, and it's just kind of silent, quiet, and everybody's. You can feel the tension before the cannon goes off, you know, but there's a calmness that also comes out of all of it because of the release that's about to happen. I wonder if that's where that comes from.
Interesting. So, would you say it's, I guess, because it's traveling, like, would it be more wildernessy or like urban, suburban?
Um, like a park, you know.
Okay.
Like it could be a suburban park, but not like deep woodsy. No, like a suburban park. You know.
Okay. Connected to the world, but still just on the cusp. I dig it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to some fun ones. What is some turn ons for you?
Ooh, determination. Like I don't care in any way it manifests, but like how that's like you got gusto. You got give a shit. You know, and you can't teach
Okay.
that. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
So determination is a big turn on for me.
Would it be is it across the board? Is this going to be specific to career, physical?
Anything, anything. If you want to be an artist and you want, let's say you want to be the best artist on the planet, and you wake up every day giving your best effort to try to do it. You may never be there, right? Like you could be what we're doing, just doing this for the fun of the game, right? But you're
Right.
determined to get somewhere. You know,
Okay.
you may not know where that is or what that looks like, but and that could be anything. That could be work, that could be hobbies, that could be um relationships, you know, however it perceives itself or manifests itself. But that's what turns me on.
Nice. I'm glad that I get to kind of, when we're doing this little turn on for a little jingle in your pants, it makes me feel good. All right. So on the inverse, what are some turn offs? And hopefully it's not just like a lack of determination. What is like something else?
No, you can't go with the opposite, but somebody who just can't control their emotions. You know, anybody who just can't, like, you just ride that roller coaster of whatever wave you're in at that moment. If you're happy, if you're sad, if you're grumpy, like everybody around you just feels whatever that energy is and you can't control it. Almost like um a fire sorcerer in D&D. Like just
Yeah.
once he loses it, I can't stand that. That is a complete turn off to me. If you can't control your emotions.
The
I
volatility
understand
of
people who have a
emotions.
short fuse, but that's different, you know?
The person who stays angry the whole day because of one thing, it's like, hey man, move on with life.
Yeah, like get over it.
Okay. What is your favorite curse word? By the way, most of these questions are stolen from Inside the Extra Studio.
Yeah.
Shout out to them because those were some of my favorite episodes.
Mm-hmm. Cunt.
Hunt.
Yeah.
Now, do you like it because it inflicts that like ooh, like that cringe as Americans, or because since we've traveled, it's like, yo, man, it is such a casual thing. Like it's cunt is dropped like bro in most of
Um,
English places.
no, it's because when I've kind of like first learned how universally it was used, one of my friends described it to me because he said, "Hey, that part's a bit cunty," and I was like, "Oh my god, you can't say that." And he goes, "No, everybody says it." And he looks over to the South African guy. He was from New Zealand, by the way, and then
Okay, I was gonna say.
he goes, everybody says it." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's an awesome word because you know exactly what I'm saying when I meet it. Everybody knows, regardless of what you're doing, inanimate object or person, a cunt is a cunt, period." And I was like, "Okay, makes sense."
So what about like funny cunt? Because like that's a term of endearment. Like, you're a funny cunt, Chris.
I don't know. I've never had anybody
Also
say it in
from a
a term
gentleman
of
from New
endearment.
Zealand.
I've always just used it damningly. So,
Oh, okay. So like kind of you like the infliction of it.
yeah, and it's also like a very that's once I say it, that's the last line. Like that's the last line
Yeah.
of defense. After that, you're on your own.
Okay, that's your truth. Like that's your mic drop. Like that's
Yeah.
it. Okay. Okay, I dig it. I dig it. Well, on the note of a little bit of volatility, who is someone living or dead that you would fight? That you would just walk up to and just Will Smith. Just
Oh no, it can't be Will Smith. It would have to be in a cage because that'd be so disrespectful.
okay, like okay, so not a blind side, but
I
like,
want a
hey,
fair challenge.
Chris, you are entering the ring with this person and they know that it's going down. But like the
Ooh,
person that you would like if Will Smith was like, you know what, like
I
Rock,
know.
because of what you just said,
No, I know who I want. I want Maximus. Maximus Decimus Meridius
why?
from Gladiator. That's who I
Yeah,
want.
no, I know who he is. Yeah.
That's who I want.
What
Because
did
think about it. Think
collaborate?
about it. You are going to be forgotten regardless. I'm nothing special. I know how to fight. I can stand up my ground and I can probably beat the shit out of a lot of people. Not everybody, but a lot of people. But I'm nothing special. I'm going to be forgotten. So why not see where I stand with the best? And if I can go 5 rounds and take it to a decision, I may not win, but that shows at least I've got some gusto. I've got some moxie. And
Oh,
that internal to walk around with, ooh,
so it's not like a vendetta type fight. It's a
no.
you're going like gently wushu, checking in like, oh, we're just checking levels. So you're just doing a self
Oh,
check on it. You just want to fight the. I thought you had something against him. I was like, what do you got against Russell Crowe's Maximus,
no,
man?
no, 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 no,
Uh,
no, 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 no. I want to see where I stand because again, I'm gonna get forgotten. I'm nothing special, but the do that for me because to walk
fine.
around and say, yeah, I took Maximus 5 rounds, five
Okay.
rounds, and there's what
So you want to self check it?
what's gonna stop you in the planet after that? Because that's gonna be the worst 25 minutes of my life.
Right. Okay, well then I'm gonna throw a secondary question in. Who would you fight with malice? 'Cause that one's like a self check. That's just like, yo, I just want to see where I stand in the rankings. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
how am I like going in the world? What's one like malice? Like when you see them, you're just like, bro, no, no, we're getting in the ring.
Oh, Joker style, just like on site, or
Yeah,
or is it like Nate Diaz bitch slap style, like just
I don't know what that means.
just um who would I fight with? Hmm.
I mean, it's also a very
Yeah.
informative thing that you don't know this. Like it just shows that you don't carry a lot of burden around with you, which is also something I didn't know. It makes me feel a little worse about my answer, but I'll yeah. Like, but I actually like this is again. I'm very impressed that you're not like, oh, I don't know. So
No, because I I've told you this. I feel like once you have the capacity to hurt people more, you have more of a capacity for love and compassion, and you get both sides of it because you can see the meanness, you can see the nasty. Um, I don't think I've ever fought anybody with true ill intent though, or ill will. So
I mean
I don't
that
know.
this is hypo. You just fought Maximus Decimus Meridius. You're also gonna throw in if you don't have one. I respect that. That's a very informative answer.
Fight Maximus, you can't go in there with ill intent. If you go in there knowing, like, just swinging for the fences, he's gonna find you. He's gonna find your holes. So you've got to go in there knowing that, like, hey, I got to make shots count. You just got to be at
That's why.
an ultra level of awareness. Almost your spidey sense turned on to the next level. That's the one thing I do enjoy about fighting is you are acutely aware of everything that's happening to you.
Right. There's no outside like factors.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then on a happier note, who is someone that you would like want to sit down, have a beer with, have a joint with, just sit from sundown till the wee twilight hours?
Mm. Ernest Hemingway, right? Like that dude seems like an absolute animal. Would be super enjoyable. I mean, same thing with Johnny Depp. I don't know. Somebody that is going to give me stories that I couldn't even fathom. That
Right.
and they are for me again because nobody's gonna believe that I sat down with Johnny Depp. So we'll go with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp would be.
That would be a fun one. And he's been through all of it, of every spectrum of things. So it's like, what was it like with kid movies? What was it like with this super dark movie? What was it like with all of your wristbands on? Why did you choose all those? Like,
What was it like with your wife taking a shit on your bed?
yeah, like what is some serious toxic
Like
stuff? Okay,
you could get some wisdom real quick out of Johnny Depp and some real big wisdom too, you know?
absolutely. All right. Your what would you like to see on your resume in 5 years?
Ooh, business owner.
Entrepreneurial.
Yeah, that's what I
What type
wanted
of
to say.
business?
I don't know what that seems like. I've learned that if I make my goals too narrow, I'm my expectations are never met. So if I keep my goals broad enough, I generally meet them with a much better expectation. I've learned that it's better for me to not shoot for the moon. What's the phrase? It's shoot for the moon or land on the stars, right?
Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Land among the stars. I've learned that is a less efficient attitude to me than for as opposed to my attitude, which I think is a little bit more baboon to the moon. Whereas if I put a monkey in charge, I know he's gonna get there. Who knows how? But
Shoot for the stars. Worst case scenario, you hit the moon. I
yeah.
dig it. You can, that's coined here, right here. That's for you guys.
There you go. That's our first T-shirt. Shoot for the stars and land on the moon.
All right. Now I know you are an extremely disciplined person. Like I could not fathom this on ships of going to the bars, going to the gym, going to these parties, the long hours we work, the crazy things. You helped me train and run many fitness tests so I could get into iFly. And I had the morning off to accomplish these things and then go back and rest and rehydrate and do things. And I watched you literally change out of your training gear into your flowrider, zipline, whatever uniform and go straight to work. And I'm sitting there just dying. So I know your discipline is just the depths of it. I'm still trying to understand. Was that something like where did it come from? Is it something like a nature nurture or something you adopted?
A little bit of nature and nurture, and let me tell you why. Um, my dad and mom both are extremely disciplined human beings, and disciplined in their own ways. They both were in the army for 21 years, and that taught them a lot and obviously kind of translated into it. But there's also a monkey in my back that always tells me that you're never enough, regardless of what it is. And the only way that I've figured out to really silence that is through conquering it every day and doing something so that I can't tell myself that I'm a piece of shit, right? And so that's where it came from and has grown into that and kind of blossomed into a much bigger, hey, look at everything that I can do because of this, right? Is that a fair way of
Right.
putting at it? But
Yeah.
yeah,
So you're constantly silencing the little negative voice.
on
The Thomas
yes,
the Tank, yes, I can.
yeah.
Do you think that could be taught? Like, if you were to get into in front of a seminar of a bunch of people that need motivation, could you talk about it? Or you like it's more of an experience thing?
Um, you can talk about it, but you have to live it because a lot of it happens in silence. A lot of it happens through your own mind and through your own monsters and through kind of getting it done. Now, don't get me wrong. There are extroverted people that are just as disciplined as me and always doing the group rides and doing the group stuff, but at least mine internally, it's a very quiet conversation inside the deep waters, for lack of a better term.
Right.
I think it kind of just has to rub off on you because you have to experience it day in and day out. I got kicked out of a fitness challenge at work one time because they said this just isn't for you. Like this wasn't designed for you, man. Like this is, and we're gonna
What
give
do you
everybody a chance next year. So I was like, ooh, that's rough. But I don't know. There's a competitive nature in there too that comes with that proving yourself constantly, you know?
Okay.
Um I used to prove it externally, but now it's a lot of internal drive and just I don't need to tell everybody what I do all the time. I just
Right.
need to keep
So you're
conquering
not
that
tweeting
monster.
it. You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, just conquering that monster every day and keep telling him that he's a piece of shit, not me.
Right. And then lastly, you kind of touched on it already, but you've been involved in fighting and combat for a
Mhm.
long time. Was that something you picked up for a specific reason? And part B is, does that change how you perceive the world around you? Meaning, you walk into a room, are you sizing people up? If there's if I'm sitting in the corner and I'm being too loud and obnoxious with my buddies, are you kind of gauging me? Or like, how do you perceive people around you now?
Started with just a lot of it comes from my control issues in the world, and so it makes me feel more comfortable again talking to that monster of you're a piece of shit versus not piece of shit. um and that's kind of where it all stemmed from and grew, is just having a low self-esteem and trying to feel more comfortable in the world. And so I don't know, it's I'm never really sizing anybody up because of how comfortable I feel, if that makes sense.
Right.
I'm never like alert. I don't know. I'm never like looking or trying to pick a fight. But I do you can very easily pick out predator and prey very quickly.
Yeah.
I will say that. And it just happens subconsciously, right? From your nature of walking around practice and going, "Oh shit, who do I want to fight tonight? Who do I want to, like who do I want to train with? How do I want to get better?" And
How long have
and
you been
just
training?
Um, I did karate for like 4 years, 5 years when I was a kid, and then I've been doing Muay Thai for 3.5 years now. So not a
Okay.
lot, but I'd say above average.
Nice. Okay, last question. It's more of a secondary thing because you made
Hmm.
me think of it. You called it a monkey, a monster, and an asshole. Do you have a picture of what it looks like? Is it like the emo dark Chris? Is it an actual mythical creature? Is it just a voice in the void?
No, it's just a voice. It's just a voice. It's just my internal conversation between myself.
The inner monologue, the
Yeah,
void screaming. Yeah,
it's just the inside voice. I mean, that's really all it is. It doesn't have a face. It's just like the mirror on the wall, I guess, for lack of a better term. Or if you just pictured it, it's just black. Like it's just it's like a speaker. Kind of like right here, just going out. So yeah.
a little void. All right, I dig it, and it ties in perfectly. This is why we're doing this. It's that little void that's echoing back, but that's what you're fighting against. Oh
Hmm.
my goodness, I just learned so much about you. That's so cool.
So,
I'm so excited about that.
so what I'm gonna do after you is sum it up. So sum up what you learned out of that. What
So again, the
or
biggest hitters.
Nagy talk about me more.
Yeah, of course, doesn't like that. And that's, I mean, again, that's what kind of made me laugh when you were saying you're not sizing people up in the room. And I was like, yeah, that's a reason that we're very good friends, because we will walk in anywhere and we don't mind. We are very comfortable in our own skin. So we're not sizing people up of I'm gonna go be like we never think that it's obnoxious. And if someone goes, hey man, Tony Down's like, oh my god, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was affecting you. Apologies. Like we don't do that. So
Everyone
that
gets one.
resonated. Yeah, everybody gets one, Spider-Man Toss. So it's, you know, that was very cool to just know that it resonates. The discipline was very curious because it's always reflected to me as, you got to create those habits, you got to do those things. And it's something that I was always curious about. And it's like, man, why don't I have that? Where's mine not coming from? Why, man, I need to start doing this. And sometimes it picked up, sometimes it didn't. But your determination to always do those things is just, I wanted to know where it came from. And that to me is just super fun.
Yeah.
And it also relates straight to your turn ons, which is why on ships and stuff like that, when I saw you girls, that it was like, yeah, I can now completely understand why you
Hmm.
pursued and why you had good times with
Interesting.
certain. Yeah, because like it was something I got to witness and on hand. It's like, yeah, again, we're on ships, we're in such this microcosmic world that yes, people are going to meet up with whoever, and now it makes more sense to be like, oh, okay, that makes more sense why those two kind of found matches. So
Okay.
I really dig it.
All right.
I'm a little sad with the fight one, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to know because of your experience, like who you just be like, oh, I want to take this person in the ring and I want to take them down. And now it's like, oh, you're just way nicer of a person. Like again, you're just up another notch. I'm like, oh, you're even nicer than I knew because it's you don't even like again, you don't carry that burden. That's what a lot of people do is carry these crazy burdens, and you're just like, I'm too lazy to hold a grudge, and that's something I try and live by. And you're just like, yeah, I'm already doing it. I'm like, damn, good on you, mate.
I'm just too busy doing other shit, man. Like that's really all it
Yeah.
is. Like and a good kind of rule I learned just kind of over my life was you're going to develop haters, but if you don't have my phone number, I don't give a shit about it. If you can't call me and tell me what it is, then I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
If you can't, you
Are you
know.
sending an angry email? Like, we'll respond to him in time, but maybe now we will. We'll get back to you. So
Yeah.
you guys, so
So cool. All right. Well, I've got yours. I'm amped for this. So let's get this thing going with some light questions, and we'll kind of throw some curveballs in there. Are you ready to hit some
love it.
home runs on these?
Let me get a little bit more of my courage juice.
Were you ever a baseball kid?
Partially.
Yeah.
I played a summer league in high school. Like I played as a kid because you're always playing baseball as a kid, but it's very political. How much of an answer do you want? Because I'll go off for a while. But no, it was like political with the coaches' sons always in the best positions, and they stick the randos in outfield. And I'm like, I don't have the attention span for this. I'm bored. And then when I played in high school on this like scrub league, I was second base, and I loved it. So I'm like, if you put me in the action, I'm ready for it. But no, I'm doing this to fill time between the cross season.
All
So
right. So I'll hit you with a cross metaphor. Let me just hit you with some feeds across the crease. Keep it simple.
Okay.
Opening up the
All
door.
right.
What's a noise you love?
Oh man, it actually goes with the nice little one-timer. So the first one is a lacrosse ball or a hockey puck hitting the iron. When you hit the cage, like it's that a lot of the noise I love is like a resonance. So when a puck or a lacrosse ball hits the iron, it's just like a beautiful bell. And when you're on offense, it's the worst bell because rarely does it hit solid and go in. It hits and it's gone. But just that noise of like, yo, you're getting on target. But my absolute favorite noise is thunder. And I don't even really care for lightning. I like the show, but being on ships, being out at sea, you see the storms and then you see lightning, and then once in a while, like you'll just hear the thunder roll across the ocean. Or living in Florida where it literally stormed for the entire season, we'd get these storms and it would just be so much thunder. And yeah, you get a bunch of the lightning and you're like, okay, like I would like the lightning because I knew the thunder was coming, but that resonance of just like that huge sound.
So,
That
what would you say is your favorite distance? Do you like hearing it crackle just on top of you? Or do you like hearing that kind of far echo? Echo.
it's when you can get the thunder without the crack, that's better. So when you're especially like the wilderness, when you're on the plains, like we're in South Dakota, when you could get those storms, or Florida where you're not hearing the lightning, because the crack that's super harsh, but the thunder that just booms, that just like sends home. And like usually when you're at that distance, you get the rain as well. So you have this like peaceful rain followed by just like the world kind of giving you a nice little boom, that like it just that puts me in a very happy place. And I've always been, anytime it's pouring rain, I get like crazy energized. I'm like, let's just go stand in it. Like umbrellas or not, let's just go stand out in the rain and just feel this storm around us, because it does kind of put some perspective that we're these tiny little raindrops as this world goes around us, but that thunder just hits you and you're just like, dang, that's a nice one. And then when the lightning cracks too close, it's like, maybe we shouldn't be outside for this.
All right. So, if you enjoy being in thunderstorms, then who is somebody that doesn't like you and wouldn't want to be in that thunderstorm with you, and why?
Man, that is not across the crease, but there's a man. It's kind of a list. So if they ever hear this, I really hope they do, because it's tons of people from high school and college of, you know, I did ride. It kind of made me laugh on your answer of people that ride those emotions. I rode a lot of emotions in high school and college of energy and hormones and everything. And there's a bunch of guys that I think that if I tried to call them now would never give me the time of day, because it's just, there's one guy, he's a close friend, best friend of several of my very close friends, best friends. And we got into a physical fight, like a physical altercation in high school. And even I'm like, yo, man, life has changed so much in the past decade that I'm way too lazy to hold any kind of grudge. And I would rather sit down and have a conversation, check in on you. And there's people that I think wouldn't want to share that thunderstorm with me because of how I acted in high school. And I'm like, I completely understand. I'm deeply apologetic. Looking back, I don't even know. They give me some of my greatest points of shame in life, because, I was just driven by the party and the beer pong and emotions and just hormones just out the gates, that I'd really like to be like, hey man, I've greatly changed. There's majority is still pretty much the same, but I'm sorry that I acted that way in the past. But I have tried to grow and develop and be a better person, and I look back on those moments and still remember them as in the moment they're just, emotional, huge, like charged, like situations. But now I'm just like shame, and I'm like, man, if I could just say I'm sorry now, that's what I'd want them to hear. But I still don't think they'd share an umbrella with me.
That was a very self-aware answer, though. I like that.
I mean, again, these are things that I've thought about countless times, where small situations or you see stuff and you're like, damn, dude, that kind of happened to me. Like, I just feel terrible about it.
Okay. So, while you were running around and having your emotions fly everywhere, what was one of your favorite curse words?
It developed later. I mean, with the emotions, it's always going to be just, you know, throw your finger or throw a dartboard, but it's developed into when someone goes like with laughing, goes, oh, Jesus Christ. Because to me, it's that moment in their brain where part of them finds it funny and most of them knows that it's too far. And you're joking, you're talking, it's a situation, whatever happens, it's the Jesus Christ, dude, too much. Or, and that to me, in almost like any situation of, you're out, you're all partying, and all of a sudden one of your bros streaks across the party completely naked, and you're like, hey, who's up next? Jesus Christ. Like, it's the moment of, it's just like, it's almost like a brain, your brain's kind of taking like blue screening of just what just happened, and I acknowledge it, but it's, yeah, that to me is the best, because it's it's also like a self check of when's the conversation going a little too far one way, but it's also like, yeah, we're right on that brink, and that to me, like, just the perfectly timed blaspheme, just that's just a sweet little comedic spot.
All right. What do you want done on your 5-year resume?
A managerial title of sorts, because it's there's so many things on the CV that are so hard to put down with my particular lifestyle of coaching, childcare, skydiving. Like, these things do, like, I went into a bank to apply to be a teller, and they're like, "You were a skydive instructor and you want to work at a bank?" You're like, "Yeah, I need, like, I'm not doing that anymore." So it doesn't like translate, but the life skills that we picked up are just incalculable, of to be able to say like, no, I have supervisor experience, I have these things, like, to work your way up and prove like, listen, I can be in charge, I've got these. We've done the calculations, we have talked to over 100,000 people in our life, and that's more than most people have even seen, and we've had these interactions. So I'm like, when I would go into job interviews, I'm like, listen, I've been through every type of situation, because we did it 2,000 people a week times 30 plus weeks a year. Like, it happens. So to finally be able to have that recognized and be like, okay, yeah, you got it. We trust you.
At my business, you're going to be the manager of awesome.
There we go. And that's a great thing to have on a business card. Like, you're the manager of awesome is okay, cool. All right. It's going to be a great
Okay.
company. I can't wait.
All right. As the manager of awesome, who are you going to fight that's living or dead?
At Sajak. I've known him for
What that
years.
was, you've had that
Sage
loaded. By the
Lumber.
way, that question came from you, and I feel like this is why. Come on.
It's, well, it came from, like, one of them was fight. It came, I think it birthed from Fight Club, because it's a great question of like, who do you harbor malice for? And I loved watching Jeopardy growing up. Like, I was the one that was like, hey, parents, can we please turn on Jeopardy? I love trivial knowledge. And again, that's all these life experiences ago. I have not studied anything in particular. So when I watch Jeopardy, how good am I just knowing? And when you watch the masters and college ones, I'm like, bro, I'll get like 5 out of all of the questions. But I love Jeopardy. But right after Jeopardy was Wheel of Fortune. And most of the time, everybody was too lazy to change the channel. And Pat Sajak just grinds my bones. And it's because I don't like him as a person. Like, so if you watch
Acceptable.
it, you can go watch it now. And during the normal rounds, great, but I always feel like he's never cheering for the contestant. And it's proven in the final spin or whatever it's called. When it's the last person and they give you the private clue, and it's always, this is the other thing I hated, is it's always a thing. Like, cool, that's it's a noun. It's a completely esoteric idea, and they give you like RST, whatever. They give you the letters, and then these people try and guess it. And if you watch, they pick a slip, and that's the prize they would win if they get the final puzzle. And if they don't get it, he goes, "Oh, you would have won 100 grand. Oh, maybe next time. Oh, too bad." And if they do get it, he's like, "You won 100 grand. All right, let roll credits." And I'm just like, dude, I would put on some gloves. I don't care if I have to wear 20 ounces and he's bare knuckle. I will go in there, and that's why my answer made me feel way worse. You're like, dude, I'm like, dude, I carry this around in my back pocket, like constantly locked and loaded, ready to just. If I saw him on the street, it's one person that's like I would walk up to and like, oh man, I'm gonna write a strongly worded email to your face. Like, I'm
You're
sorry,
aggressive.
it's that one got me fired up. Man, I was hoping that would come later, but
All right, what's one of your biggest turn-ons then? Since your turn-offs is not cheering for people. Since you're clearly not cheering for the room is one of Nagy's turn-offs, and don't get across.
you're not wrong on it. It relates. It's just, but he's a bad person. Okay, we're gonna move on. Turn-ons would be, well, definitely Jara's laughter. Like, when I can make her burst into laughter to the point of tears, it's like, man, I'm killing it. And it does relate to like any friend or people I'm talking to, where if I'm making you truly belly laugh, then that is a turn on to me, because it's like a small self thing of I've now recognized who you are as a person, and I know what you find comedic, and I'm just giving you joy. And that is like the turn on, where I'm not doing anything in your life but giving you joy in this moment. And that just, you know,
Okay.
puts a tingle in my pants, to make it very crude on a very nice statement.
Hey. All right. So one of the things that you have chosen to do along this consciousness that we have, or stream of consciousness that we call life, is you decide to impregnate your wife and have a child. When Atlas was born, what was a profound moment that you had? Like what was the one light bulb that went off, finally clicked?
I thought the greatest joy I could have in life was sharing my life with the one I loved. And that is still greatly true. That to me is the definition of love, that I would lay down everything and anything for her. You know, she moved to Florida when I got a job. We moved back to Minnesota when she got a job, and I went from a dream job to trying to figure stuff out. And it's because I was like, no matter what, I've got this person at my side. When Atlas was born, I was almost petrified that I didn't get that sense of, oh, I just went from being a man to being a father for weeks. I knew that this child was part of our lives, but as a male, you don't get the sensations. Like Jera had this creature growing among her for 9 months, and she would constantly, like, dude, she was getting mad because she'd be like, "Look, you can feel it moving, you can feel it." And I was like, I don't feel anything. I'm sorry. She's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, I I'm here. Like, I have my hand. We're sitting on the couch. I'm sorry. So when he came into the world, I thought that there would be that, oh my god, supernova moment of and it didn't come, but I still knew to care for this thing. But watching him develop and grow, and now he's 15 months developing his own personality, there's so many times that I didn't know that your heart could exist outside your body. That is something that's inexplicable. Through the tantrums, through the diapers, through the lack of sleep, through the can you please just let me watch this episode of Jeopardy without you needing to play with Hot Wheels? Like through all of that, I find myself constantly thinking about him, and if I had the option, I would be a stay-at-home dad in a heartbeat because everything he does is just wondrous. And he's experienced the world, and you watch him try and solve puzzles and do stuff that I if you were to throw me back on cruise ships right now, the only thing I would think about, okay, sorry, Jera, I'm actually more concerned like with what Atlas is doing. Like one of them can come on the ship, like bring Atlas, bring him. I'll put him in the baby carrier while I'm teaching flowrider. I do not care. Like I want to spend all these moments with him, and it's just it's inexplicable, and it's also a double-edged sword of people tell you about, oh, kids are gifts, and they're like, oh, okay, enjoy never sleeping again. Like, bro, pick a lane because they go hand in hand. Where when he wakes up in the middle of the night, I don't think like, oh my god, I'm gonna be so tired tomorrow. You're just thinking like, what can I do to make your moment better? And it's nothing I could have even ever fathomed because it's this little dude just running around that he's got Jera's features and he's got my characteristics and vice versa. And it's not something that I could have ever imagined and no one can ever tell you about. But knowing that he's here in this world and doing these things is just something that I would sacrifice anything for.
So if your dream scenario could come true and you could stay home and be a stay-at-home dad with Atlas, what do you want him to thank you for when he turns 18?
Like made me cry here, bro. um, I think it would be just being there, and not only is my presence the father figure, the one you can trust for everything, which was something instilled by my parents, where I could call them at 3 in the morning, be like, "Hey, I'm drunk at a party. I need a ride home," and my dad would be there, and someone that we could share every experience with. Of Dad, I'm gonna kick your ass at basketball, and even as in high school, my dad would just body me out. I'm like, how? I've been training. You've not picked up a basketball in 10 years. And so being there for those moments of like, Dad, thank you for always being there in the moments that I didn't think I needed you. Like the
Okay.
small thing you don't even notice. Again, it's one of those things you can only know in retrospect of being there for him at his lowest, at his highest, and you know, to have him go, Dad, I'm going out partying, and then go, hang on, guys, and then need to come give me like a hug goodbye. Like things like that, where it's like, hey, I know you need this more than me. Like he knows that it was something, and that's something that I think about now of when something happens. Like, so right now, the garage scares him, and he just has to run, and I get to pick him up. So it's the small moments like that where it's just that bond where he goes, hey, you need a hug right now, Dad, I got you.
I like it. All right. If you could run it back and do it all again, or even push your son to do it, what profession would you want to do that's not what you're doing now?
I don't think I'd ever push Atlas to it. I don't like the parents that live vicariously through those kids. Those are some dark people.
I was just tossing up a joke.
Yeah, I know, fair enough. But again, that is something that happens a lot of parents. It's like, no, he's gonna train to be, an acrobat because I could have gone, but then I blew out my knee and blah blah. If I could have run it again, feel communicative, or like computers even, knowing more about the greater world. I had the shortest attention span in high school and college. and I was self-aware enough to know that I couldn't think about the bigger picture. So I wish that I could have gone back and just been, found some of your discipline to say like, no, I want to commit to this because I got into college for mechanical engineering. And after my first year was scared of everything. And by my senior year, I was like, man, I wish I just stuck with that because it would have been fine. But something more with like global and computers because it's going to be such a paramount thing now that no one even imagined AI when I was learning about, the internet and use Microsoft Excel is going to be the icon of industry for the next 20 years. And you're like, yeah, sure, bro. Like people don't even put that on their CVs anymore. Like if you're not proficient with computers. But going deeper to knowing all about that would have been far more of a passion because it's so ever changing and evolving that it's not like you're just gonna like to me when we learned about computers it was like I said Microsoft Office is going to be the future and now it's like oh we're into AI, it is developing, you are either with it or you're gone or you're just going to find out you know retroactively. So to be on that forefront would have been way cooler because of how involved it is in uniting this whole world and things like that. For good or bad, TBD.
Okay, I like it. All right, so you and I both enjoy the art and the beauty of a conversation. With that, this podcast is going to land on the moon shooting for the stars. You are going to get to do a solo episode in a bar in England. Who are you interviewing? The bar is empty and it's just the two of you. And the bartender, of course.
Oh, this is in the future then.
It is in the future. But you can interview whoever you want. The scenario's in the future, but
There's a couple icons I had throughout life, and the biggest one was always Steve Irwin.
okay.
Like that man, his passion for life was oh man, it got me out of bed. Like it was the one show. I didn't get up for sports. I didn't get up for Saturday morning cartoons, but I knew when Crocodile Hunter came on Animal Planet, and like his passion for just everything was who I strive to be and just find that joy and passion. I was like, if I could have a tenth of this in any discipline, then life's gonna be amazing. So if I could have some again, if AI is gonna get there, baby, then if they could get Steve Irwin there and I could talk to him, that would be someone that the Australian accent, the passion, the love, the joy, the view on the world, that would be someone that I would sit down with until from happy hour till they'd lock us in.
Would you ask him why he approached the stingray from the back?
I
And he
absolutely
would know
would.
better?
It's one of those things where it's just like, man, there's the reasoning he's got to have was just because of the love and passion and trust and ah, just
well, I
heady.
appreciate the interview. The cliff notes that I got out of this from Nagy is one of the big things is you are an empath like through and through. If it was back
Yeah,
to if we were in like divergent days, you would be abnegation. Like you would just be wearing gray clothes, you wouldn't get to see the mirror, you would just devote yourself to everybody else around you. And that was evident in your
okay,
answer with Atlas saying that you want him to thank you for being there when he needed you most, which is telling me that you need people there for you and you want them vice versa. And you want to
right.
reciprocate that. That's one of your big things. I liked your answer about the past people, and I also like that you were saying you were emotional because I know you ride your emotions and you ride whatever train that you're on at the current moment
Very heavily.
till the wheels fall off. Whatever the fuck it is. You could be
Yeah,
mad, you could be sad, but you know how to like you're self-aware enough to talk about it in the moment. right? Like
Yeah,
you're self-aware enough
try.
to go, you know what, man, I'm just having a real shitty day. I'm not answering the phone. Love you.
Yeah.
Like, so that's good. And it also sounded like you were at peace with your past too. Like even though you had all these things that still may not you may not be happy that everybody reads them in your book, but you're at least publishing it because you know there's nothing you can do to change it, which seems, very mature. I like that. It's kind of sexy,
It's
some could
that's
say.
the hardest thing, and I mean, it's definitely made me the person I am today because, yeah, there's you can never change these things, but to show the people how these actions have changed me, hopefully for the better, is the one thing I wish I could tell to all of them. Because again, it's not a short list, and
Yeah. Um and your empathy showed with your answer of packed Sajak as well. Because you're like, you're the least empathetic person ever, you piece of shit.
it's just not that's not a person that you could have a beer with. Like it's just you're just not gonna be a gentleman. Like yeah, oh, manners maketh man, bro, and you're not doing it.
So that was the interview episode. What do you want to send the people home with, or what do you want to chat about? Is there anything that's still lingering around from some of those questions? I'm really appreciative of that. I feel like I learned a lot about you, and you were very vulnerable with me,
Likewise.
which kind of turns me on, man. I'm going to be honest.
Well, that's something I always like to hear. It's always a good thing. No, I mean, it's just that you can know people for years and years, but there's gonna be small little things of, especially like to me, I think the turn on was one. Like, hey, he's into this type of girl, but like, what's the actual underlying of actually any of these questions? Somebody can be like, I think, he's probably this. I'm pretty sure this, but you could have somebody that you've known forever, and you might not know these small little intricacies, but when you broach these random topics of what do you think about that? What do you feel about that? You're gonna learn depths of someone else that can make you appreciate your friends, loved ones even more. And there's not much we can do besides take it all in and kind of just keep exploring and finding that sense of wonder because we're all going into this void, but when that little echo comes back or when you take a second to appreciate it, it's going to be a lot more fun and going to make us all a little bit better people.
All right. I'll talk to you next time, buddy.
Later, man.